Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel where we peel back the curtain on real-life horrors that make you question if the wilderness is ever truly safe. Scout camping. It's supposed to be about badges, bonfires, and building character under the stars. But what happens when the woods hide something far more sinister than wild animals? When a night of s'mores turns into a nightmare that scars survivors forever. I've dug into documented cases from police reports, survivor testimonies, and historical records to bring you this scary true scout camping horror story, the infamous Oklahoma Girl Scout murders. This isn't folklore. It's a chilling event from 1977 that's haunted the nation, with details that'll have you double-checking your tent zippers. Based on facts, with atmospheric buildup to immerse you in the dread, let's venture into the darkness of Camp Scott, where innocence met unimaginable evil. Story 1. Scary True Scout Camping. Horror Story. Shadows at Camp Scott. It was June 12, 1977, in the lush, rolling hills of Locust Grove, Oklahoma, a rural slice of Americana where fireflies danced like tiny lanterns, and the air hummed with the promise of summer adventure. Camp Scott, a sprawling 410-acre Girl Scout retreat run by the Magic Empire Council, buzzed with excitement as over 140 girls aged 8 to 17 arrived for the first session. Tents dotted the wooded landscape, named after Native American tribes like Kiowa and Seminole, connected by dirt paths winding through dense oaks and pines. The camp was a haven, archery ranges, canoeing on the spring-fed creek, and evening campfires where songs echoed under the stars. But beneath the idyllic facade lurked a darkness, whispers among locals of escaped convicts and strange sightings in the woods, dismissed as tall tales. For 3 young scouts, Lori Lee Farmer, 8, from Tulsa, Michelle Heather Hughes, 9, from Broken Arrow, and Doris Denise Milner, 10, from Tulsa, this would be their first and last camping trip, a night when the forest shadows came alive with malice. The girls had been assigned to Tent Number 8 in the Kiowa unit, the most isolated spot at the camp's edge, about 150 yards from the counselor's quarters and shielded by thick underbrush. It was a large platform tent, canvas walls flapping gently in the breeze, sleeping bags unrolled on cots like invitations to dream. Lori, the youngest, was a shy bookworm with a gap-toothed smile, excited for horseback riding. Michelle, bubbly and artistic, had packed her sketchbook, doodling trees that twisted like warning signs. Denise, the oldest, was adventurous, chatting about ghost stories around the fire. That evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in fiery oranges, the camp settled into routine. A welcome ceremony, hot dogs roasted over flames, and songs like Kumbaya fading into giggles. But oddities began. A counselor found a cryptic note in a donut box at the staff lounge. "We are on a mission to kill 3 girls in Tent 1. Chalked up to a prank by mischievous scouts, it was discarded, the laughter continuing as stars emerged. As midnight approached, a storm brewed, thunder rumbling like distant growls, rain pattering on leaves. The girls in Tent Number 8 whispered goodnights, flashlights clicking off one by one, the forest enveloping them in inky blackness. Nearby tents reported eerie sounds, moans carried on the wind, flashlight beams sweeping the trees as if searching. One counselor, Carla Wilhite, heard a guttural cry around 1:30 a.m. "Mama, Mama!" piercing the rain, but attributed it to homesick kids or the storm's tricks. In truth, horror had descended. Jean Leroy Hart, A 33-year-old Cherokee fugitive escaped from prison where he served time for rape and kidnapping, had been hiding in the woods for months, surviving on scraps and burglaries. Locals called him a woodsman, but his eyes held a feral hunger. Sketches from his hideouts later revealing twisted fantasies of dominance. Hart slipped into camp under cover of darkness, targeting the isolated tent. Armed with a flashlight taped for dim light and tools from raids, duct tape, rope, he struck with brutal efficiency. The attack was savage. The girls bludgeoned with a heavy object, possibly a crowbar or hammer, their bodies violated and bound. Lori and Michelle died quickly from blows to the head, blood soaking the sleeping bags in crimson pools. Denise fought fiercely, her screams muffled by the storm and tape, but succumbed to strangulation, her face contorted in eternal terror. Hart dragged the bodies outside, stuffing them into sleeping bags like discarded gear, and left them 150 yards away in the woods, partially covered by a tarp as if mocking concealment. The tent's floor was a slaughterhouse, blood-spattered walls, a bloody shoe print stamped like a signature, the air thick with the metallic tang of death, and Wikipedia.org. Dawn broke on June 13th with a counselor's scream shattering the calm. D. Elder, checking on the girls, found tent number 8 empty, a trail of blood leading into the underbrush. Panic erupted, scouts herded to buses, parents notified in hysterical calls. The bodies were discovered soon after, innocents desecrated amid the trees. Wildlife already circling. Sheriff Pete Weaver arrived, his face ashen. "It's the worst thing I've ever seen." The camp closed forever that day, a ghost town of abandoned tents flapping like shrouds. Hart became the prime suspect, his eyeglasses found nearby, matching a description from prior burglaries. He evaded capture for 10 months, living in caves, but was arrested in a remote cabin, defiant and smirking. The trial in 1979 was a media circus. Hart acquitted due to reasonable doubt. Despite evidence like hairs and fingerprints, he died in prison in 1979 from a heart attack while serving other sentences, taking secrets to the grave. But in 2022, advanced DNA testing by the OSBI confirmed his guilt. Semen on pillowcases matching his profile with overwhelming odds, closing the case after 45 years, News9.com. Survivors like Counselor Carla still wake to phantom screams, the woods forever tainted. Camp Scott remains abandoned, overgrown, and eerie. Trespassers reporting whispers and shadows among the ruins. Documentaries like Keeper of the Ashes revisit the pain. Kristen Chenoweth, a fellow Oklahoma scout seeking answers. This tragedy, etched in Oklahoma's dark history, shows how vulnerability in nature invites monsters. The girls' sketches and songs silence, but their story warns. In the woods, safety is an illusion, and the night hides hunters. Story 2, Scary True Scout Camping, Horror Story, The Snap of Death. It was June 4, 1995, in the verdant fields outside Frankfurt, Germany. A sunny afternoon where the air buzzed with youthful energy, and the distant chime of church bells mingled with laughter. The local scout group, part of the German Boy Scouts Association, had organized a massive outdoor event to break the world record for the largest tug-of-war game. Over 650 boys, aged 8 to 15, gathered on a sprawling meadow rented for the occasion, the grass trampled under eager feet. Picnic blankets dotting the edges where parents cheered from the sidelines. The scouts were in their crisp uniforms, khaki shirts emblazoned with badges, necks wrapped in colorful scarves, excited for a day of fun, games, and perhaps a mention in the Guinness Book. Leaders had hyped it as a team-building triumph, a chance to foster camaraderie and strength. But beneath the jovial atmosphere lurked a fatal oversight, turning a simple game into a bloodbath that would scar survivors and haunt the scouting community for decades. I was one of those scouts, a 12-year-old named Lucas, lanky and enthusiastic, positioned near the middle of the rope on the left team. The rope itself was the star, a thick, Navy surplus nylon hawser, about an inch in diameter and hundreds of feet long, sourced from a local supplier who assured it could handle the strain. "Strong as steel," the organizer boasted as we lined up, hands gripping the coarse fibers, the scent of fresh-cut grass and sweat filling the air. Parents snapped photos, siblings waved flags, and a referee with a whistle counted down. 3, 2, 1, pull. The teams heaved, muscles straining, cheers erupting as the rope tautened like a bowstring. Grunts and laughter echoed. It felt epic, like warriors in a medieval battle, the sun beating down warmly on our backs. For the first few minutes, it was exhilarating. Back and forth, the center flag inching one way then the other, the crowd roaring encouragement. My palms burned from the friction, but adrenaline surged. I glanced at my best friend Thomas beside me, his face red with effort, grinning wildly. "We got this," he yelled over the din. But then a subtle vibration hummed through the rope, a low twang, like a guitar string plucked too hard. Leaders shouted to pull harder, but unease rippled. The rope stretched unnaturally, fibers creaking under the collective force of hundreds. No one anticipated the physics. Nylon's elasticity stored immense energy, turning the game into a potential slingshot. Suddenly, a sharp crack split the air, louder than a gunshot, echoing across the field like thunder. The rope snapped in the middle, recoiling with ferocious speed, whipping back through the teams like a razor-sharp lash. Chaos erupted in an instant. The severed ends flailed wildly, slicing through flesh and bone with merciless precision. I felt a whoosh of air as the rope whipped past my head, but Thomas wasn't so lucky. It caught his arm, severing 2 fingers in a spray of blood, his scream piercing the pandemonium. Boys collapsed in heaps, clutching mangled hands, faces gashed open, the grass turning slick with crimson. Ahead, a 9-year-old scout took the full brunt to his skull, the impact caving it in like a hammer blow, his small body crumpling lifeless. Another boy, 11, was struck in the chest, ribs shattering as he gasped for air, dying en route to the hospital. At least 24 others were injured, fingers amputated, deep lacerations requiring hundreds of stitches, concussions from falls as the line buckled, the air filled with wails and sobs, parents rushing forward in horror, the referee frozen in shock. "Stop! God, stop!" someone bellowed, but it was too late. The meadow transformed into a battlefield, the scent of blood overpowering the pastoral breeze. Ambulances wailed in the distance, sirens cutting through the stunned silence that followed. Medics swarmed, triaging the wounded on stretchers, bandages soaking red as fast as they were applied. I staggered away, hands intact but trembling, Thomas clutching his maimed stump, tears streaming down his face. It hurts so bad," he whimpered as shock set in. The organizers, faces ashen, mumbled about the rope being defective, but investigations later revealed the truth. Nylon was a poor choice for such scale, its snapback potential deadly, unlike natural fibers that fray gradually. No safety measures, no gloves, no barriers, no engineering checks turned enthusiasm into tragedy. The event aimed to break records but shattered lives instead, echoing similar incidents worldwide where tug-of-war claimed victims through sheer force. In the aftermath, the scout group dissolved amid lawsuits and grief, parents haunted by what-ifs. Tomas underwent surgery, losing mobility in his hand, our friendship strained by shared trauma, nightmares of that crack, the rope coiling like a serpent. I quit scouting, the uniform a reminder of bloodied fields. Media dubbed it the tug-of-war massacre, a cautionary tale in safety manuals, banning nylon ropes in games. But for survivors, the horror lingers. Every pull, every strain evokes that snap. The meadow's ghosts, whispering of innocence lost in a game gone wrong. Forums like Reddit's r/Wasich Scouting recount it as the scariest scout story, a real-life nightmare where fun fractured into fatality. Years later, on sunny afternoons, I avoid group games, the twang of tension a trigger. The 1995 Frankfurt tragedy, documented in news archives and witness accounts, proves scouting's dark side. When adventure meets negligence, the pull can be deadly. Story 3. Scary True Scout Camping. Horror story, The Fury of the Storm. It was June 11, 2008, in the rugged bluffs of western Iowa, where the Missouri River carved lazy bends through the landscape, and the Little Sioux Scout Ranch sprawled across 1,800 acres of wooded hills and meadows. The camp, run by the Mid-America Council of the Boy Scouts, was a paradise for young adventurers, trails for hiking, a rifle range echoing with pops, and cabins nestled among oaks that whispered ancient secrets. That week, it hosted the Pahuk Pride Leadership Training Program. 93 Boy Scouts from Nebraska and Iowa, aged 13 to 18, gathered to earn merits in teamwork, survival, and resilience. I was one of them, a 14-year-old named Ethan from Omaha, excited for my first overnight camp away from home. We'd spent the day orienteering through the woods, building fires without matches, and swapping stories around lunch tables. The sun beating down warmly, not a cloud in sight. Little did we know, the sky was plotting a betrayal, a monster brewing in the atmosphere that would turn our scout haven into a scene of chaos and death. The afternoon wore on with games and drills, our khaki uniforms dusted with dirt, necks adorned with colorful kerchiefs symbolizing our troops. Leaders like Ranger Bob Weaver patrolled the grounds, his whistle a constant companion, ensuring safety drills were followed to the letter. But as evening approached, the weather shifted subtly, humidity thickening the air, a distant rumble like thunder from a far-off cannon. Weather radios crackled with warnings, severe storms brewing, possible tornadoes in the Loess Hills region. Just a precaution, our scoutmaster assured, but unease flickered in his eyes. We were divided into groups, my troop assigned to the North Shelter, a sturdy pavilion with stone walls and a massive chimney, meant for gatherings but doubling as a storm refuge. As dusk fell, the sky darkened prematurely, wind whipping leaves into frenzies, the first fat raindrops splattering like warnings. Around 6:30 p.m., sirens wailed from nearby towns, a tornado watch escalating to a warning. Leaders herded us into shelters, flashlights bobbing like fireflies in the gloom. In the North Shelter, about 25 of us crammed together. Boys like Aaron Eilerts, 14, from Eagle Grove, Iowa, cracking jokes to ease nerves. Josh Fennon, 13, from Omaha, sketching storm clouds in his notebook. Sam Thompson, 14, from Omaha, sharing candy bars. And Ben Petrzylka, 13, from Omaha, leading a round of scout songs. The pavilion felt solid, its chimney towering like a guardian. But the wind howled fiercer, trees bending like supplicants. Rain hammered the roof in sheets, lightning cracking the sky in jagged veins. "This is nothing," I whispered to Josh beside me, but my voice trembled. The air pressure dropped, ears popping, a roar building like an approaching freight train. Then hell unleashed. An EF3 tornado, winds screaming at 165 mph, tore through the ranch, a vortex of debris and fury barreling from the southwest. It struck without mercy, uprooting century-old oaks like matchsticks, hurling branches like spears. The pavilion shuddered as the twister's edge clipped it, the roof groaning under assault. "Get down!" a leader yelled, but it was too late. The massive stone chimney, weakened by the gale, collapsed inward with a deafening crash, tons of brick and mortar cascading like an avalanche. Screams pierced the roar. Aaron was crushed instantly, his body buried under rubble. Josh, next to me, took a blow to the head, blood spraying as he slumped. Sam and Ben vanished in the chaos, their cries cut short by falling stones. I dove under a table, shards biting my arms, the world a blur of dust and darkness, the scent of wet earth and blood choking the air. The tornado passed in minutes, leaving devastation. Cabins flattened, tents shredded, the landscape scarred with uprooted trees and scattered gear. In the pavilion's ruins, horror unfolded. 4 boys dead. Aaron, Josh, Sam, and Ben. Their young lives snuffed by nature's wrath. 48 others injured, some gravely, broken bones, lacerations, concussions from flying debris. I emerged battered, cuts stinging, helping dig out friends amid sobs and shouts. Flashlights pierced the night, revealing mangled bodies and twisted metal, the rain mixing with tears. Parents arrived in a frenzy, sirens wailing as ambulances navigated the debris-strewn roads. "Where's my son?" a mother wailed, collapsing at the sight of stretchers draped in sheets. Rescue was heroic. Scouts like Zach Wells, despite injuries, formed human chains to carry the wounded, earning praise and awards from President Bush. But grief overshadowed. Funerals packed churches, communities rallying with funds. The ranch closing temporarily for repairs. Investigations blamed the storm's unpredictability, but questions lingered. Why no underground shelters in Tornado Alley? The EF3 carved a 48-mile path, destroying homes elsewhere, but the Scouts' loss hit hardest, a stark reminder of vulnerability in the wild. Survivors like me carried scars, nightmares of roaring winds, Josh's sketches haunting my dreams, clouds twisting into funnels, figures pulled skyward. The ranch reopened in 2009 with a memorial chapel, but whispers persist, ghostly cries on stormy nights, shadows among the bluffs. Documentaries and books recount the tragedy, a caution in scout manuals: respect the weather, for the storm's fury spares no one. This 2008 Little Sioux horror, etched in Iowa's stormy history, shows scouting's peril. When nature turns predator, even the prepared can perish. That's the trio of scary, true scout camping horror stories that turn badges and bonfires into badges of survival. From the brutal murders at Camp Scott, the deadly snap of a tug-of-war rope in Frankfurt, to the tornado's wrath at Little Sioux Ranch. These real events remind us that the great outdoors can harbor human evil, mechanical failures, and nature's fury, all waiting to pounce when least expected. If these tales have you rethinking your next troop outing or stirred up your own camping close calls, smash that like button, subscribe for more dives into true terror, and drop your scout scares in the comments. I might feature them next. Stay safe on those trails, scouts. The woods have eyes, and sometimes teeth. See you in the next video.